Hi, everybody. This is Nathan White, candidate for Palm Bay City Council, seat 4. Bringing you an update on this last City Council meeting. If you watched my previous video about what they did at the meeting before this and what they were planning to do at this meeting, they did it. At the last meeting, at the previous meeting, I should say, they approved. The request was brought and it was approved. Done deal. $3.4 million in spending requests brought by the city manager on behalf of various departments. It was a list of different requests that totaled that amount. They spoke very, very little about what was on the list. They did not go through it by item. Maybe mentioned small handful of them individually, if that, before approving it. And at this meeting this past Thursday, the city manager honored their request, their only request or feedback, really, even on the $3.4 million worth of requests, which was, why not more? That was literally their only feedback, was, why not more? We have more to spend. So this was being requested to be paid for out of the undesignated fund balance, because they'd come to conclude that there was more than enough money in there, so why not spend it? Because if you have money, why not spend it? I'm sure anyone that's ever made a budget is familiar with my problem with that mentality. But she honored the request, brought back an additional list of about $2 million worth of more stuff, and they approved it. With one alteration, actually. The request, the list for this request showed that she had removed one position that she'd originally requested that cost almost $86,000, and it was an asset manager position for the finance department. She'd removed that from the requests and put in its place, I assume because she deemed it more important, or more important at the moment, who knows exactly. She added a community information coordinator position, which would have cost $40,500. So less than half the cost, switching out the request for one position for another. And council actually complained about this. I was pretty surprised, a little caught off guard, especially at how bothered they seemed by this. But they asked questions like, why do we need a community information coordinator? And, what would they do that someone else isn't doing? And I'm not kidding. I believe something dangerously close to these exact words was said. The city has assets. They need to be managed. So they switched it back. They ignored her request to replace the asset manager position allotment for the community information coordinator, and instead switched it back, and then approved the additional money for the full list of requests. Those were the only things on the list that they actually talked about. They didn't go over any of the other things on the list, despite it being $2 million worth of stuff, and they only brought up 2 items that would have to be put together to even get over $100,000. This brought the grand total approved spending from the undesignated fund balance over the course of these 2 meetings, 2 votes, which were only 2 votes because they wanted to do more. They didn't need a second vote to approve the first vote, not like changing an ordinance. Nope, just one and done. Brought the grand total to $5.363 million, which is approved. It's basically gone. And if you watch the video from the meeting, which I would always encourage you to do, you'll see that I did speak up about this. Didn't help, but I did attempt to drive home the haphazard way that they're spending this money by using my new favorite unit of measure, and pointing out that they'd spent at the last meeting in one vote 13.264 special elections in one go, and that at this past Thursday's meeting, they'd upped that grand total with the second vote, upped it to a total of 21.114 special elections. Didn't make a difference though. And in fact, they ignored that and most other things the community had to say, but they did take time to throw back to the last meeting and continue to show how offended they were at the fact that I'd used the word reckless. I tried to maintain a positive example in all of my dealings in this regard, in the political sphere, so to speak, in City Hall. I did not think that was a particularly harsh word choice, especially considering all of the things that have been discussed. But apparently it was very offensive. I didn't mean it as an insult exactly. I mean, it's a bad thing, but oh well. I can't think of a better way to describe it. Haphazard comes to mind, spending. But anyway, we've got one more thing to talk about from this meeting. Again, just bringing the highlights. The other is the 3 votes, 3 changes that they approved, 3 requests they approved all in one meeting, all regarding the 24 acres that previously made up Joe Daddy's golf course. The 3 requests: 1, they approved a change to the comprehensive plan use map for that area, changing it from rural residential to multifamily residential. I think it was multifamily residential. And then also changing the zoning for that area, which is different, from single-family residential to multifamily residential. Also, when you're talking about rural residential, what it was originally marked as, think like single-acre lots, kind of like Grand Buck area situation, changing from that and the single-family home to multifamily home. And then the third was approving the PUD for a developer, who was the one bringing all of these requests, to build a 176 townhome unit development on those 24 acres, which is also right next to a school, by the way, which causes a lot of traffic back up in that area. And they're going to add 200 plus vehicles to that mix, but they're going to put in a turn lane. They're going to put in a small turn lane, and according to them, apparently that's going to fix everything. It'll be better than before. I struggle to believe that, but we didn't have much time to talk about it. They didn't take much time to talk about it. They approved all 3. And when I called attention to this, essentially complained in comment that they were doing this all very quickly, with little thought, little anything, they said basically, well, we have to do all 3 because we can't change the zoning if we don't change the plan use map, and we can't approve the PUD if the zoning isn't right, and the zoning needs to be... Well, yes, they do all have to be lined up, but that doesn't mean you have to approve all 3 in one meeting without talking about it, doing some research, listening to the public, because I was not the only one to speak out against this. Several people came to the meeting specifically for that purpose, but they weren't listened to either. I want to say a special thank you to those people also that stayed and spoke with me afterwards. It was enlightening, and I appreciate that. And I am sorry that the others in that room weren't listening, or some of the most important others, I suppose, in that room weren't listening. But I was, and I am. And hopefully council will be soon. So I, as always, encourage you to go back and watch the video. You can jump to specific agenda items in the video thanks to the little list that they have there, palmbayflorida.org. Watch/listen. You'll see the links. But I look forward to seeing more of you soon at council meetings and elsewhere. I'll be bringing some updates soon about events. Thinking about doing a meet and greet kind of a thing. And I really just want to wish you all a fantastic new year, a great night, a fantastic weekend. God bless you all. God bless Palm Bay, and have a great night.